All right, now let's look at some of the other pieces that we bring, use to bring it all together, and then we'll create an ad. So I'm going to go over here to Business Tools, and I'm not going to hit all of these things because you don't need all of these things. We're going to live in Audiences and Events Manager. So I'm going to start with Audiences. Audiences and targeting and retargeting, like Rob's question, that is the power of Facebook advertising. So you want to figure out how to do this well. In a normal ad, you get the opportunity to say who you want your audience to be, and you'll see that when we do that in a minute. But we also talked about how you can upload custom audiences. You can say, hey, here's all the parents of kids in our church. Here's all the parents of teens. Here's all the single adults. Here's all the people over this age. Here's all the men. Here's all the women. You know what I mean? Like, you can upload those from your church database and grouped like that so that you can create a custom audience in Facebook of them. So you can see custom audiences we've created. Some of them are uploaded, like when it says customer list, that's an uploaded one. When it says saved audience, that means we created it in an ad and said, hey, save this for future use. So 10-mile radius plus people that like our page. That's what that means. So these are ones we've already created. I'm going to show you how to make one. So I'm going to hit create an audience. In Facebook, there's custom audience, like we just talked about, people that visit our website, and a list of people from our church database. And then there's lookalike audiences, where Facebook says, okay, that audience you uploaded, that list of people that attend your church, we're going to try to find other people that look like them and make an audience of them. So I'm going to start with custom audience. And then it's asking me, okay, what's your source? Is it your website? Is it a customer list? Is it app activity, which is going to be very few churches? Is it offline activity, like people that physically came up? Like, again, you're not going to use that. Is it a video that people watched on your Facebook page? Is it from your Instagram account, right? Like, these are the different places you can create custom audiences from. Like, I can say my Facebook page, create a custom audience of anybody who follows or even interacted with that page in the past 6 months or something like that. For the most part, I am only usually doing customer lists, website visits, or video or Instagram, like they already interacted with something on our site. And I would say 95% of the time when I do it, I'm doing customer list, and then a little bit of the time I'm doing visitors to a website. Although I think both would be good. So if I picked website, Facebook uses something called a pixel. The pixel is what stalks you. If you go to some store and you look at some dresser for your bedroom, and then you go on Facebook and then you see an ad for it, the Facebook pixel on that store website is what figured out you were there and then knows who you are on Facebook and showed you that ad. So Facebook calls it a pixel. It's called other things in different platforms and stuff like that. You have to create a pixel and put it on your site in order to do that, in order to link the two. And again, your church may decide, hey, we don't want to stalk people that much and have them see a church ad as soon as they leave our church website. Or maybe you do, but you just don't want to be crazy about it where they don't see it right away. But it is very powerful, and I do recommend it, not necessarily across for like everything all the time. But for example, we have it, I call it the CCC pixel, right, for our church name. And I can say up top, include people who meet any of the following criteria. And it defaults to website visitors in the past 30 days. I believe you can do a max of 180 days. Yes. So, and it could say all website visitors. And then I could just call this CCC website visitors. And it will start, now here's the key. It'll start now looking at 100 days, and it also has some history. But see here, it says enter the number of days you want people to remain in your audience after meeting the criteria. So what this is more about is how long do you want them to stay in there from now. So that's why it's great to create custom audiences, both with your email lists from church and your website, because you want to start it now so it builds that audience over the next weeks and months. I do not believe, though I could be wrong, that it goes back and collects data even if your pixel was already running like ours has been. So if I just called that CCC website visitors, 180 days, I'm going to go ahead and put October 2020 on there when this is being recorded, because I bet you we actually already have this as a custom audience. So I want to be able to differentiate. So it's created. It'll take some time to populate, right? And as people visit, it'll start filling that. I could create a lookalike audience off of that. So what that means is Facebook would say, okay, people that visited your website, we're creating that audience of them. Let's make a lookalike audience of people on Facebook who seem like them. They look similar to them. So if I click that, I got to give it a source, and that's where it's going to go look at the different sources, and it'll mix. So like here down has in my nickblevins.com page. That's part of how Facebook will kind of merge in sometimes different accounts if you use different accounts. So I'm going to click on other sources, and there's all these custom audiences, right? So these are different lists that we've uploaded. So I could come over here and I could pick that audience. Let me find it again, 180 days, October 2020. Select audience location, search for regions or browse. Like you can pick, it's just the US. Obviously, most churches, you're not going to be searching anywhere. So you could actually come in here and get into the country and, down to United States and nope, don't want to be there, and pick it that way. This is why for the most part, when I'm creating a custom audience, what I do to make it a little more simple is I actually don't choose a location. I mean, you could just choose the US, that'd be fine. What I do is later when I use this audience, I add in only 5 mile radius, only 10 mile radius. Does that make sense? Because if I do this right now and I don't pick a location, it's going to do 1%, meaning like 1% of the population that also looks like whatever you said the source is. And a lot of times that's going to be, it's going to be a pretty large number. And so you have to pick, even if I just pick the entire United States, down here you can see it's 2.4 million people, which obviously you do not want to be running ads to 2.4 million people all over the place. But what I do is I don't specify the location more there. In the ad, I say, give me that lookalike audience, but only the ones that are within 5 to 10 miles. Does that make sense? So we made it. It's here. So we've got 2 of these that we just made. And look, see it says pending, size not yet available, populating below 1,000. I find these size numbers to be pretty good, but only if it's like large. So if it's over 100,000, it's probably fairly accurate. If it's under 100,000, and certainly if it's under like 10,000, it's not very accurate. In fact, it'll just say not available. Below 1,000, that's probably true. I've seen it sometimes though say, look, 3,400. So, I mean, it's kind of accurate, but the smaller it gets, I would say the less reliable it gets. So now if I go to custom audience again, we did website, right? Now I'm going to do customer list. So this is where you're going to upload, people in your church database. You need to research laws around this, policies, codes, have that conversation with your church because there's privacy laws. Now we're in the US where we don't have necessarily the same thing they have like in Europe with GDPR and things like that. So it's a little more loose, but it's not completely loose. So you need to think about and maybe have the conversation, get legal advice, whatever you need to do to determine, can we just upload, people in our database to Facebook and then run ads to them? Again, it's more loose here in the US at the time we're recording this, but it's not completely loose, right? So you can't just do whatever you want. People had to basically opt in, which most people do in a church, to get in your database. And that is usually the case. I mean, most of the time, obviously, we're getting that information because they gave it to us. But if you really want to go, above and beyond, there would be a way to opt out of that. When they are signing up, there'd be a way to indicate, like, okay, you're subscribing for us to send you ads and marketing and emails and things like that. And my experience is most churches don't do that. So I think it's just a conversation to have with somebody that knows far more than I do. But I will show you how it works. So here it says prepare your list, and you have to have an email, a phone number, and then all this other stuff you're probably not going to have. You'll have first name, last name, but you're probably not going to have all this other stuff. What that means is Facebook's going to use that information to try to figure out who is that person on Facebook and can I match them? That person in your list, here's who they are on Facebook. So you can download templates and all that. I'm just going to hit next. I made one that I'm going to upload. It's just me and my wife, and it has our email and I think our city and state. But obviously you would export this from your church database And my opinion is that you include as much as possible. So if you can include email, phone number, city, state, zip, I mean, include all of it, because that helps Facebook figure out if that is the same person. Because the email they give you in your church database may not be the same one they use on Facebook. It usually is, but not always. So this is asking, does your list include a column for customer value? This is a business thing. You're not going to put anything there. What that means is like, this customer spent $3,000 with our business in its history. So their value, their lifetime value is $3,000, but we're not going to do that. So that's a no. And then here, download the template, or in my case, I've already formatted it, although it doesn't match their formatting, I don't think exactly. It'll be close enough. So I'm going to upload that. Custom audience list. You would want to give it a name. I'm just going to leave it like that because I'm just going to delete it later. But if I hit next, it now looks at it, tries to map them. Okay, so over here it says mapped. It figured out email is email, so it's good to go there. Phone number, which is fake, is good to go there. Action needed on the other ones. So it doesn't know, it's not figuring out the first name is first name, which is hilarious because it should have. But I just told it, and so then it went over here to mapped. Did you see that? So we'll do it again so you can see what happens. Last name, if I map it to last name, as soon as I click this, it's going to map it and stick it over in that other column. See how I put it over there? City. City is a feature. So I'm going to map that. It'll go over there. State is a feature. So it will map that and go over there. So now they're all mapped. And it shows me the names and the cities and states and things like that, just so I know it works. So upload and create. In progress. Shouldn't take that long for 2 people. 2 rows updated. And again, just like with the website, we can create a lookalike audience. We could start creating an ad right here. I'm just going to hit done. And, it's the 2 of us, and the email isn't even, I gave different emails, so it's not even going to work. But anyway, you could see that's how you would create the list. If you were doing, I'm going to delete it now. If you were doing custom groups like parents of kids, parents of students, over this age, whatever, you would want to make sure you name it appropriately. That way you can, like when you go to use it, it just makes sense.